General Hospital early spoilers June 30th to July 4th, Sonny reels from shock and Curtis unleashes fury. General Hospital spoilers for June 30th to July 4th, 2025 see Sonny Corinthos, Maurice Benard, is stunned and Curtis Ashford, Donnell Turner, is lashing out in an extreme way. And as we always do on early edition day, we're going to start with what is happening the rest of this week. And just a little side note, be prepared for news interruptions. There's bombing and stuff going on, and we've seen the CBS soaps interrupted and the ABC could be. And if it is interrupted and there's a preemption, be sure and check your DVR programming to make sure that you don't miss one. General Hospital spoilers, Martin's bad news, Dante's dilemma, and Alexis concerns. Alright, hopping into what's coming. Wednesday, June 25th, we've got Martin Gray, Michael E. Knight getting bad news. Now his whole week has been rough. He's in the hospital getting his back checked out because he lunged for that receipt that Tracy Quartermaine, Jane Elliott, was holding and he just took a fall. It was very embarrassing. So, he could be getting bad news about his achy-breaky back or about Elizabeth Weber, Rebecca Herbst, deciding not to pursue a personal injury suit for the SUV car crash. Or it could be more alimony demands from his many exes thanks to Tracy Q. Plus, Martin has a talk with Rick Lansing, Rick Hurst, who comes to see him at the hospital. And Martin tells Rick, if anybody can irritate her, it's you. And it sounds like he wants Tracy to poke and prod. I mean that he wants Rick to poke and prod at Tracy, which would be pretty funny. General Hospital spoilers, Dante pushes BLQ. Dante Falconeri, Dominic Zamprogna, goes to see Brooke Lynn, Amanda Seton, and tells her that they really need to work together to get through to their son, Gio Palmieri, Giovanni Mazza. He doesn't want to talk to either one of them. And of course, they're not the ones who were keeping the secret that he was growing up right under the nose of his bio mom and dad. And I do agree they do need to work together. Lulu Spencer, Alexa Havens Bruning won't like that. And that's one more reason they should do it. Plus, Alexis Davis, Nancy Legrand, stops by General Hospital for a chat with Elizabeth. So, I'm wondering if Christina Corinthos Davis, Kate Monsey, told her mom, Alexis, that Liz knows that she cut the brake lines and that Lucky Spencer, Jonathan Jackson, asked her not to go to the cops. So, Alexis may be seeking reassurance from Liz that she really won't tell the police and she may want to thank her. And of course, I think Elizabeth's rationale is simply because Sam McCall, Kelly Monaco died. But Liz warned Christina, don't do anything else or I will go to the cops. And we know Christina is pulling this Cody Bell, Josh Kelly con on Ava Jerome, Maura West. So that could come back around to bite Christina. Cody's orders, Marco's delivery, and Ava's accusations, GH twists unfold. And speaking of the local cowboy, Cody obeys orders on Wednesday. And it may be about Christina and the whole Ava seduction scheme. Or it could be something about Tracy because it looks like he is having a talk with her. He asks if his job is already done and Tracy wants to discuss payment. You remember Michael Corinthos, Rory Gibson, actually cooked this thing up with Cody, which I thought was pretty brilliant. Marco Rios, Adrian Anchondo delivers something to someone. A very vague spoiler. It might be about his mom Natalia Rogers Ramirez, Eva LaRue DUI case and the deal that she's supposed to be cutting with D.A. Turner, Nazneen contractor, to testify against Sonny. Or maybe he is sending flowers to his boyfriend, Lucas Jones Van Hansis. Speaking of, Elizabeth asks Lucas if he thinks that she is leading Rick on. Now, I think that Liz letting Rick breathe the same air that she's breathing leads Rick on. But that's on him, not her. Meanwhile, Ava calls somebody a lying liar, and it may be Rick. I wonder if she finds out he's been flirting with Liz or maybe she figures out that Cody is running a con on her. Plus, Sonny asks someone what their answer is, and it may be about Natalia taking that relocation deal to get away from the Port Charles PD and her looming DUI trial. Carly's worries, Lucas's advice, and Dante's new perspective, General Hospital drama intensifies. Then on Thursday, June 26th, we have got Carly Corinthos Spencer, Laura Wright, talking to Sonny, but she leaves that conversation quite worried. Carly may be all up in arms about the Sonny vs. Sidwell, Carlo Rhoda thing because Sidwell has made clear he wants Sonny's peers and he'll stop at nothing until he runs him off. Marco is aiding and abetting in that. Lucy Co. Lynn Herring was trying to convince Sonny. So Carly may butt in, and when she does, she usually messes things up. She may get Jack Brennan, Chris McKenna involved. Lucas gets some advice from Lulu, and it could be romantic advice about his relationship with Marco. And Brooklyn sees something that she definitely does not like. And I wonder if it's her son, Gio, talking to her enemy Lulu. Plus, Dante gets a different perspective on things. He gets some food for thought from Jason Morgan, Steve Burton, and this likely involves Gio and maybe how to approach him. I mean, like him or not, Jason's been a deadbeat dad for years. Meanwhile, Dante was just in the dark. So, maybe he is going to have some advice from a dad who's not been good and who's trying to be better, given to a dad who's always been better and is now struggling because he's been seen in a bad light. Plus, Marco gets some new info. This could be about Natalia and Sonny. Maybe Natalia tells him she's going to take Sonny's deal. I wouldn't mind seeing her jetting out of Port Charles for good. GH Friday cliffhangers, Carly's memories, Anna's interrogation, and Sonny's shocking event. On Friday, June 27th, we've got Carly reminiscing with Jason. I wonder if they're talking about Michael's childhood and her lying to keep him away from AJ Quartermaine, Sean Cannon, with Jason's help because Carly just brought that very thing up to Michael in regard to him keeping Willow Tate, Caitlin McMullen away from their kids. Anna is put on the spot. She's asked some very hard questions and it may be about Sonny. Maybe it's D.A. Turner pushing on her. Then we've got Daisy's christening event on Friday. Sasha Gilmore, Sophia Matson, and Michael and the families are there, and there may be danger from that mystery stalker who may or may not be working for Sidwell. There's going to be a huge shock for Sonny, and I wonder if it is at the christening. Could be some kind of attack, or maybe they arrest him at that big family event. I guess it all depends on what Natalia decided. Harrison Chase, Josh Swickard, and Brooke Lynn uncover something on Friday, and it may be about Britt Westbourne's Kelly Thiebaud past with Rocco Falceroni, Finn Francis Carr. The groundwork is being laid for Kelly Thiebaud's return in July. General Hospital July spoilers, revenge plots, wedding plans, and contract changes. The week of June 30th through July 4th, we've got Brooke Lynn pondering her next steps now that she and Chase found out something and Marco should be delivering that original birth certificate that she wanted. Brooke Lynn is getting closer and closer to getting revenge on Lulu, but it may hurt some other people as collateral damage when she does it. Sonny's going to face some fallout from that huge shock at the end of the prior week. And Carly is very eager to help Sonny. But as we know, Carly tends to make things worse when she gets overly involved. Dante switches gears. After that talk with Jason, after the talk with Brooke Lynn, we could see Dante taking a whole different approach to getting Gio to open up and let him in his life. Marco makes a big decision that week and Drew Kane, Cameron Matheson, goes on the offensive against Curtis and Portia Robinson, Brooke Kerr. Now that Kai Taylor, Jens Austin Astrup, has spilled the beans and Drew knows Curtis and Portia are searching for Jacinda Paige Herschel to get her to lie about him. Expect Drew to act out in worse ways. Trina Robinson, Tabiana Ali, is likely going to be upset at Kai over this. Willow is busy planning her wedding and Sidwell is busy plotting to take down both Sonny and Jason. He needs them out of the way. The 4th of July episode should be an encore episode. That's generally what the ABC soap does. So wait and see. Also, this plan to seduce Ava might be Cody's last hurrah before we see him far less because Josh Kelly has been pushed back to recurring. He is no longer on contract. So, I guess that also means no romance with Molly Lansing Davis, Kristen Vaganos unless it happens off-screen. Drew's chaos erupts and Portia faces arrest? General Hospital sees Drew Kane Quartermaine, Cameron Matheson, now knows that Portia Robinson's, Brooke Kerr, husband is plotting to humiliate him and ruin his reputation and his career with lies. Is Drew going to hit them preemptively? Is Portia about to be arrested for the ketamine caper? We're going to talk about how Drew might expose Portia's crimes and have her arrested for hiring Jacinda Paige Herschel and providing her the drugs that led to that wild night of debauchery that was caught on video. And just by the way, Michael Corinthos, Rory Gibson, is on board with Curtis Ashford's, Donnell Turner, scheme against Drew, and those two are playing a long game. Michael even encouraged Curtis to play ball, cooperate, act like he's giving in to Drew's demands to run that negative piece about the custody verdict. Curtis planned to protect Portia and end Drew's blackmail in General Hospital. Meanwhile, Curtis is trying to protect Portia and end Drew's blackmail and stop his control over his wife once and for all. So, the plan was to find Jacinda the hooker and pay her to lie and say that Congressman Cutthroat got the ketamine himself and was using it recreationally and wanted to do some wild partying while his girlfriend Willow Tate, Caitlin McMullen, was out of town. Curtis will no doubt splash Jacinda's false story all over the media and destroy Drew's life or get it into the local tabloid even if he doesn't want to do it with Aurora. Right now Curtis has private investigator Felicia Scorpio, Christina Wagner, searching for the prostitute. They've got a lead on Jacinda and Felicia is very close to finding her in Sydney, Australia. But the huge problem is that Portia and Curtis were not careful when they were plotting and scheming and talking about their big plan to wreck Drew because Kai Taylor, Jens Austin Astrup, overheard everything. Kai's warning to Drew, exposing Portia and Curtis' scheme in General Hospital. And when Cody Bell, Josh Kelly lied and said he left the ketamine in Tracy Quartermain's, Jane Elliott car, at the press conference, Drew couldn't speak up and say, "Oh, Cody's lying, because, he planted it himself." He really couldn't defend against it because he was trying to set her up. And then, of course, even worse, Tracy ripped Drew a new one in public and he was so despondent afterwards when he was talking to Kai. And I mean, let's face it, Drew's a monster. But for some reason he has really been good to Kai. Even bad people have puppies. So, when Drew claimed that everybody was against him and Willow, Kai felt bad because Drew's been so nice to him and he warned him what Curtis and Portia are planning with Jacinda. And no, I'm not comparing Kai to a puppy. I'm just saying that like bad people, have puppies and kittens and pets and kids and they're nice to them while they're awful to everybody else. And that's Drew. So, because of what Kai told him, now Drew has time to prepare. He knows what his enemies are plotting thanks to Kai. And of course, Drew, shocked and probably furious, but also very grateful to Kai because he forewarned him. Now, Drew just needs to find a way to get out in front of this, and he might be ready to just throw Portia to the wolves. Drew's dilemma, exposing Portia versus protecting Nina in General Hospital. One problem though is Portia had a co-conspirator, Nina Reeves, Cynthia Watros, who is also a good friend of Curtis and about to be Drew's mother-in-law and his former bed buddy. So it seems like if Drew pressed charges on Portia, then that would expose Nina's involvement as well. Brad Cooper, Perry Shin, could show up and be Drew's witness, but remember, Brad only dealt with Portia. So, there is a way that Drew could target just Portia, have just her arrested, and force Nina to back up whatever story that he tells to the cops and to the media. All Drew has to do is tell Nina that if he goes to Willow with all this info about the hooker and the ketamine that absolutely humiliated Willow and really upset her, she'll probably never talk to her mom, Nina, again. And I think Drew's right when and if he says this to Nina. Willow would be absolutely furious with her mom and, probably would cut her out of her life. General Hospital, Drew forces Nina? So Drew may hold Nina's feet to the fire and get her to turn on Portia if she doesn't want to lose Willow. He could force Nina to talk to Jacinda to pay her more than Curtis offered and have her put all the blame on Portia. So, we could see Jacinda coming back to town and Curtis and Portia think they're going to get this big win, but then Jacinda accuses Portia of paying her and providing her the ketamine and just leaving Nina completely out of it. And if Portia tries to say Nina was part of it, Jacinda can deny it and Drew can say that Portia is grasping at straws on General Hospital. Now, obviously, Nina wouldn't want to turn on Portia and would feel horrible because Curtis is one of her best friends, but Nina is more terrified to lose her daughter Willow than to lose one of her friends. So, Nina may think she has no choice but to do this for Drew. If this is what he pulls, he can promise to keep on keeping her dirty secrets and she can stay in Willow's life unless she crosses him. Carly's assumptions and Drew's potential moves against Portia in General Hospital. Now, Carly Corinthos Spencer, Laura Wright, thinks she knows what happened, but honestly, she's assuming that Nina was the one to drug him. She has no hard proof, so I'm not worried too much about her coming in and trying to defend Portia because she doesn't have any actual information or evidence. And Drew can always pay Brad to come back and testify against Portia and say that she even made him take the ketamine. So, if Drew gets the hooker and the shady lab tech to both say that he was targeted by Portia, she'd go to jail for that alone. And then there's also still Portia tampering with Heather Weber's Allie Mills test results. So honestly, Drew's got everything he needs to ruin Portia's life, send her to prison, and take her medical license. Drew's options: nuclear bombshell or one last chance for Curtis and Portia in General Hospital. Drew could do all that, or he could sit down with Curtis and Portia and tell them, look, I've got my finger on the button that can trigger this nuclear bombshell that will rip your family apart. Ruin Portia's career, send her to prison. And Drew can tell them, look, I can push this button. I can take the nuclear option if you keep pushing me. Or he can tell Curtis and Portia, stop playing games. Back off. Stop it completely. And that does seem more like Drew's style because he's been sitting on a lot of information for a while. You know, kind of makes him a perfect sleazy politician. But then again, maybe Drew's had enough of people plotting against him. And by the way, I do think he deserves all the bad things that have come his way and that are coming this way, you know, for cheating with Willow, how he's treated Jason Morgan, Steve Burton, and others, for saving Cyrus Renault's Jeff Kober life in prison. You know, Drew deserves some karma. However, right now, he's got the upper hand thanks to Kai. Trina's potential devastation and Kai's unforeseen consequences in General Hospital. And speaking of the former football player, you know, Trina Robinson, Tabiana Ali, is going to be devastated when she finds out Kai warned Drew about what Portia and Curtis were planning. And this could come around to bite Kai. You know, I don't know if Trina could get past that, especially if Portia and Curtis won't play ball and her mom winds up arrested. You know, this could be the end for Kai and Trina if Drew press charges on Portia. So we'll see. I don't think Kai knows just how bad the fallout could be for Portia and for him by giving this info to Drew. I mean, Kai's just a nice guy who thinks Drew is getting trouble he doesn't deserve. But let's also be honest, as bad as Drew is, Portia has done all this to herself, like she always does. She's a liar and a schemer and has been for a long time. Jordan Ashford, Tanisha Harper, pointed that out just before Portia threw a drink in Jordan's face at the pool. I mean, I understand that Portia wanted to protect Trina from Heather. That makes sense, but that's not her only lies and misdeeds. And the ketamine thing was pretty sketchy. So we'll see how it plays out. That info from Kai is absolutely invaluable to Drew, and I'm sure he will reward him, but Trina's probably going to punish Kai when she finds out he blabbed. So, will Drew destroy Portia and have her arrested because he doesn't think she and Curtis will ever stop? Or will Drew give Portia and Curtis one last chance? This could be the end of the line for Portia and she may lose everything, including Curtis.